Social media can be a wonderful tool. It allows us to educate ourselves about worldly topics and learn niche skills, and has even opened up a new world of careers. But like everything, it has its negatives. Online bullying, stalking, and harassment are all common problems today. As for catching criminals, it can be a useful addition to an investigator's bag of tricks. It can also give an unsettling glimpse into the mind of a violent perpetrator. Join us for today's episode as we examine 3 eerie social media posts linked to stone-cold killers. The murder of Melinda Vasilije. From the start, 22-year-old Melinda Vasilije's relationship with 24-year-old Aga Hassan was troubled. The pair broke up sometime in January or February of 2017, but reconciled on Valentine's Day. However, months later, on April 3rd, Melinda broke up with Aga again, this time by text. She told him that their relationship hadn't been the same since they'd reconciled, and that she simply wasn't happy anymore, adding, "We both know it's just not meant to be." Chillingly, instead of understanding his ex-girlfriend's point of view, Aga drove to her home in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, and entered the apartment uninvited. Melinda subsequently fled the building, while Aga got into an altercation with 2 other men. He was then charged with breaking and entering and 2 counts of assault. Over the next few weeks, he sent a barrage of texts to Melinda, over 60 messages which went unanswered. Then, on April 27th, Melinda agreed to meet with Aga in order to give him some closure. They talked inside her apartment, and later that night, she walked him back to his car. As she returned inside, however, Aga reportedly followed her. Inside the apartment, he stabbed her 47 times. 27 of the injuries were inflicted on her neck. CCTV showed him fleeing from the scene afterwards. Her roommates discovered her dead in a pool of blood later that morning on April 28, 2017. Aga, a native of Hamilton, Ontario, was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder in May of 2023. Despite the conviction, the case has been shrouded in mystery and contradicting statements. His defense team argued that he got into a fight with his ex-girlfriend after admitting to having cheated on her. She subsequently grabbed a knife in fury and cut him on his hand and wrist. Aga then decided to grab a knife himself. He claimed to have stabbed Melinda twice before blacking out. The prosecution, meanwhile, alleged that he killed his ex-girlfriend intentionally because she refused to get back together with him following their breakup just weeks before her murder. They also noted that 2 knives were used in the attack, one of which was serrated and another of which wasn't, and argued that the cuts seen on Aga's hands could have easily come from his knife slipping in his grasp during the attack, something that is quite common during knife crimes. In Canada, the murder of Melinda gained an extensive amount of media attention, not specifically because of the crime, but because of Aga's behavior in the following weeks. After stabbing Melinda to death, he fled to the US and then texted her to let her know he was glad to have seen her and relieved that they sorted things out. All this despite having murdered her just hours before. On top of that, he posted numerous strange and even chilling social media posts. He messaged Melinda's mother through a Facebook profile to tell her that it was partially your fault that her daughter had died, adding, "Oh well, you have other daughters." The strangest of all the posts was one which appeared on Reddit on May 1st, 2017, which was titled, "Wanted for Kitchener My Side," and posted by the user RedAsBlue101. The post has never been definitively connected to Aga, as far as we can find, but authorities believe that it was likely posted by the killer. The detailed post told the story from his point of view of what happened in the lead-up to Melinda's murder. He claimed that they cuddled, kissed, and talked about everything after making up, but that before he left, she asked if he'd been in a relationship with other women during their break. He said that he had, which prompted Melinda to allegedly flip into a rage and grab a knife, which led him to grab his own and stab the 22-year-old in self-defense. He wrote, "The fact is, no one is more destroyed than I am. She was more than a girlfriend, a soon-to-be fiancée. She was my everything. What happened that night was nothing but tragic." The post was later removed, and the user was suspended. In June of 2017, while Aga was still fleeing from the police, 3 posts appeared on an Instagram account which is believed to have belonged to him. A video was posted, but it didn't have audio. An image of him and Melinda was also posted, and then later a second video. It's unclear what the contents of this video were, but most reports state that the footage did not include Aga. The following month, he posted another 2 photos. The caption of one read, "I'm coming home. It's time to end the dark path I've been traveling and give people the closure they deserve." Aga was arrested on July 11th, 2017 by Secret Service agents. Notably, he was arrested as part of a counterfeiting investigation after it was discovered that he was placing orders for counterfeit currency via the dark web. He had $600 of counterfeit bills on him at the time. These US charges were not pursued due to the outstanding murder charge in Canada. He was eventually extradited to Canada, where he wound up in court for Melinda's murder. Aga's team initially tried to push for manslaughter, but the Crown rejected his plea. His conviction of second-degree murder automatically carries a life sentence with no parole for 10 to 25 years, with the judge ultimately deciding that he would not be allowed to apply for parole until 2033. The murder of Brittney Gargol. 18-year-old Brittney Gargol was described as bubbly and hyper. At the time of her disappearance, she was just weeks away from her high school graduation and stepping out into the real world for the first time. Though her father was absent from her life and her mother struggled with addiction, Brittney fostered a great relationship with her grandmother, who raised her and appeared to be doing well despite her troubled start in life. On March 23, 2015, Brittney spent the night in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, partying with her friend Cheyenne. The pair had known each other since they were around 14 and built a strong relationship after discovering that the other understood their plight. Cheyenne also had a troubled upbringing. She had been raised in the foster care system and had been subjected to sexual abuse as a young child. A friend named Atasha Story saw the 2 girls that night before they went out. They stopped by, and Brittney asked to borrow some cash so that she could get petrol for her car. Story recalled, "And then I told her to be careful. If you need me, call me, and I'll come pick you up or whatever." She gave me a hug, and that was it. That was my last interaction with her. At 12:02 a.m. the following morning, Brittney and Cheyenne posted a selfie together to Facebook after they got ready to go out. It was the last time that Brittney was seen alive. She never came home that night. At 6:02 a.m., the Saskatoon Police Service was sent to a remote area on the outskirts of town where a passing motorist had spotted a human body, dumped not far from the local landfill. It was clear that the victim was already dead. She was cold to the touch and could not be revived. She was missing her shoes and bore marks on her throat that indicated foul play. From the crime scene, investigators gathered various pieces of evidence, including a leather jacket, a woman's watch, and a belt. The woman had no ID on her, so authorities released descriptions of her distinctive tattoos in the hopes someone would recognize her. Atasha saw the report of the remains found on the news and recognized the tattoos immediately. "I literally dropped on my couch and started crying because I was like, there's no way. She was just here 9 hours ago." Thanks to Atasha's tip, detectives were able to identify the body as Brittney's. They soon began scouring through her online presence in a bid to find clues as to who might want to harm the 18-year-old and trace her last known movements. It was there that they spotted a new message on her Facebook page from Cheyenne, reading, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe." Investigators soon reached out to Cheyenne and visited her home, where she explained that the pair had bar hopped around town. At 4 a.m., they attended a house party where Brittney began socializing with a man they'd just met. Cheyenne couldn't name him though, and described him as being in his 30s. The 2 girls eventually parted ways. Cheyenne said that she was dropped off at an assisted living facility where her uncle lived. He was able to corroborate that he saw his niece sometime after 4 a.m. In the meantime, a post-mortem was carried out on Brittney's body, which revealed that she'd been strangled to death with a black braided belt, which was discovered close to her body. police had been satisfied with Cheyenne's statement until they went to validate her story using CCTV. She claimed that she and Brittney had visited the Colonial Pub and Grill towards the end of their night, but they could not be seen on surveillance footage in or around the establishment. Similarly, there was no footage of Cheyenne visiting the facility where her uncle lived, despite the fact he backed up her claims that she'd visited him that night. Authorities subsequently interviewed Cheyenne's uncle, who told them that he had lied because she asked him to. He then told them her version of events, that she and Brittney went back to a motel room with two men, where they used drugs and consumed more alcohol. An argument then broke out over the cocaine, and Cheyenne went to use the bathroom. When she returned, Brittney was dead on the bed. One of the men threatened to kill Cheyenne unless she helped them dispose of the body. The police didn't believe this version of events, and found no evidence to verify this story. Cheyenne soon became their prime suspect as a result. They re-interviewed her in May of 2015, just weeks after the murder, but she had no interest in talking with authorities. It was Cheyenne's aunt who was able to shed some light on the night of the murder. She contacted Brittney's family, stating that on the night the two girls were out, her niece had returned home in a panicky state. She was drunk, crying and upset, and stated that she'd strangled her friend. At this same time, Cheyenne was still denying all knowledge of the murder. She posted to Brittney's Facebook page, "I miss you so much. You came and visited me in my dream last night. Miss you so much. You were way too young to go. Rest in paradise, my angel." But investigators were still unable to pin down Cheyenne with evidence. Authorities decided to skim through Brittney's Facebook page again, and it was here that they rediscovered the selfie of Brittney and Cheyenne before they headed out for the night. Just seen in the bottom left corner of the portrait was a thick, braided belt that Cheyenne had fastened around her waist. It was the murder weapon. Unknown DNA, as well as Brittney's, had been discovered on the belt found near the crime scene. Investigators compared the unknown sample to Cheyenne's and discovered it was a match. Friends reported being shocked when the identity of Brittney's killer was revealed. Cheyenne was confronted by police one final time. This time, she gave the real account of what happened. In the early hours of March 24th, 2015, she and Brittney went to a house party where they both used drugs and alcohol and were heavily under the influence. Cheyenne recalled that her last memory from the night was around 4:30 a.m., at which point they had not long visited a McDonald's restaurant. The pair had an argument around that time, but Cheyenne stated she couldn't remember what it was about. She told authorities that she blacked out, unsure of what happened in the following hours, and unable to remember actually killing Brittney. She did, however, claim to have a feeling that something bad had happened when she came to. Investigators later noted their frustration that during all of this, Cheyenne gave no motive for the crime. To this day, it's unknown why she killed her best friend. Due to the information and evidence available, the prosecution reduced charges from second-degree murder to manslaughter, to which Cheyenne pled guilty. She was given 7 years in prison. In a statement through her lawyer, she stated, "I will never forgive myself. Nothing I say or do will ever bring her back. I am very, very sorry. It shouldn't have ever happened." Cheyenne was granted statutory release in 2024, but it was revoked after she was charged in connection with a high-speed chase in a stolen vehicle that same year. The murder of Skylar Neese. 16-year-old Skylar Neese was last seen at 12:30 a.m. on July 6, 2012, at her family's residence in Star City, West Virginia, when CCTV showed her sneaking out through her bedroom window and climbing into a light-colored sedan, whose driver could not be seen and identified. Skylar never returned, and her parents attempted to file a missing persons report the following morning when they discovered she was gone. However, they were hampered by the authorities, who thought that the 16-year-old was a runaway, despite the fact she left behind her cell phone charger and contact lenses and solution. She had left her window open, indicating that she planned to return. Shortly after she was discovered missing, a tip made its way to police investigators to say that she had been spotted in North Carolina, but a subsequent investigation revealed that the girl seen was not Skylar and was unrelated to the case. The Neese family began handing out flyers and aided in the search for their daughter, but no trace of her was found. Eventually, the police identified the vehicle in the surveillance footage as belonging to 16-year-old Sheila Eddy, who had been friends with Skylar since they were 8 years old. However, Eddy told investigators that she'd picked up Skylar and dropped her off an hour later, claiming she had no knowledge of what had become of her afterwards. For months, Skylar's family waited for news. It would not come for a long and agonizing 6 months. In December of 2012, the mother of Rachel Schoaf, another 16-year-old who was a friend of both Eddy's and Skylar's, contacted emergency services to report that her daughter was having some sort of mental breakdown. In the background of the call, Schoaf was heard screaming. She was ultimately taken to a psychiatric facility where she stayed for 5 days. Upon her release, she demanded that she be taken to a lawyer's office where she confessed to Skylar's murder, claiming that Eddy had also participated in the crime, with their motive being that they didn't like her and didn't want to be friends with her anymore. Schoaf directed investigators to Skylar's body following her confession. The 16-year-old had been left in Wayne Township, Greene County, Pennsylvania, less than 30 miles from her home. The remains were found on January 16, 2013, while the announcement of an identification came 8 weeks later in March. She had been stabbed over 50 times. According to the court transcript, Schoaf and Eddy picked up Skylar on the night of her disappearance. In the trunk, unbeknownst to Skylar, was a whole host of items to help make their plan go smoothly. A change of clothes, cleaning rags, bleach, wet wipes, and a shovel. After picking Skylar up, the trio drove to Brave, Pennsylvania, stopping at an area they were all familiar with, as they often stopped there to hang out and smoke marijuana. As they settled down beneath the night sky, Schoaf and Eddy told Skylar that they'd left the lighter in the car. Skylar then offered to get it, and as she turned her back to the 2 other girls, they counted to 3 before lunging at her with knives they'd kept tucked under their arms. Skylar attempted to flee the scene, but she was tackled by Schoaf, who continued to stab her. During the chaos, Skylar managed to grab Schoaf's knife, stabbing her above the ankle. The teenager told investigators that she had stopped attacking by that point, having been somewhat incapacitated by the ankle wound, but Eddy continued to stab Skylar until there was total silence. Once they were sure she was dead, they tried to dig a grave, but realized that the ground was too hard and rocky, so they instead covered Skylar's body with branches, dirt, and leaves. Before leaving the scene, Schoaf and Eddy changed their clothes, wiped themselves down, and cleaned the car with the wet wipes they'd brought. Skylar's family would later note that, chillingly, both Schoaf and Eddy helped participate in the search for her. Notably, Eddy never confessed to the murder. She was caught after authorities searched her home and found Skylar's blood in the trunk of her car. Schoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. She received 30 years in prison and would be eligible for parole after 10. Of the 2 girls, Schoaf appears to be the most remorseful, having expressed regret and sadness for her actions in court. She expressed such emotions several times during parole hearings in 2023 and 2024. In 2023, she also revealed that the motive behind the murder was not actually that they didn't want to be friends with Skylar anymore. Instead, it stemmed from the fact that both Schoaf and Eddy were in a romantic relationship together, which was causing friction between them and Skylar, and they were worried that Skylar would tell their secret. Notably, in the days leading up to her murder, Skylar had tweeted about her frustration with her friends, writing, "It really doesn't take much to piss me off," and "Sick of being at f***ing home. Thanks, friends. Love hanging out with you all too." One day before she died, she wrote, "You doing shit like this is why I never completely trust you." Her final tweet, posted hours before she snuck out of her bedroom, read, "All I do is hope." There had been some speculation over the years that there was more to the girl's motivation for murder than they'd said, but it wasn't until 2023 that the truth finally came to light. Interestingly, Skylar had written in her diary in the autumn of 2011 that while staying over at Schoaf's house with Eddy, Schoaf and Eddy began to have sex. Because the trio had been drinking all night, Skylar didn't want to leave the room in case she ran into Schoaf's strict mother. While Schoaf claimed that both she and Eddy cried and vomited after murdering their best friend, Eddy is noted to appear far less remorseful for the crime. She pleaded not guilty to various charges in the autumn of 2013, including kidnapping, first-degree murder, and conspiracy to commit murder, but after finding out that she was potentially facing more charges in Pennsylvania, she ended up pleading guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with mercy and was sentenced as an adult. Adding to Eddie's seeming lack of sadness at her friend's murder was her various tweets in the days after Skylar went missing. Her first tweet, posted on July 7th, 2012, was a happy birthday message to another friend. Over the course of the next few months, she posted typical teenager thoughts, complaining about homework, talking about what TV shows she was watching, and discussing her dislike of school. At one point, she expressed appreciation for Shof, tweeting, "No one on this earth can handle me and Rachel. If you think you can, you're wrong." Even after Shof confessed, Eddie continued to behave normally. When Skylar's body was discovered, she posted, "Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend." She included a photo montage of her and Skylar over the years, and added, "Worst day of my whole life." Perhaps the most chilling and infamous tweet of all, though, was one Eddie posted on March 30th, 2013, which read, "We really did go on 3. Shof had told investigators that the girls had planned their attack while in science class together. Although their plot was overheard by other students, nobody believed they were really planning on hurting anyone, and so it was never reported to a teacher or the authorities. Shof stated that they always planned to count to 3 before stabbing Skylar to death in the woods." Both Shof and Eddie are serving their sentences at the Lakin Correctional Center in West Virginia. Shof will likely be released in 2028. That same year, Eddie will be eligible for parole for the first time. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.